This is the story of a journey of love, dedication and commitment. A journey across continents to share the love of Jesus to the ends of the world. It's a blessing to have with us Sister Veronica, who will guide us through the timeline since 1849. Sister Veronica, who is Sister Veronica Fernandez, who is 88 years old during the shoot of the movie, recently celebrated 70 years of religious profession, has a master's in English literature and is a well-known musician. Having served the congregation in diverse roles, locally and internationally, she currently ministers as spiritual director in the minor seminary, Chambery. Today, she is a spiritual guide to a group of associates which she initiated in 1955. A prolific writer and a powerful speaker, she has written and rewritten the history of the province of India. Her many spiritual works and regulations for the lay associates are much appreciated.
I'm reminded of the third verse of Psalm 1. Like a tree that is planted near streams of water that gives its fruit in season, its leaves never wither. Before we commence with the actual beginnings of Chambery, it is important to note that the Sisters
of St.Joseph Annecy, Chambery and Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, in collaboration with the missionaries of St. Francis de Sales of Annecy, was instrumental in sowing the seeds of faith in quite a large territory of India, of which Bishop Theophilus Nairet was in charge. Mother St. John Boissa had just been elected superior of the sisters in Chambery, but she offered to join the sisters of St. Joseph Annecy who were leaving for India at the invitation of Bishop Nairet. On July 13, 1849, the sisters embarked on the merchant vessel D'Amblay from the French port of Bordeaux. They arrived in Vizag via Pondicherry on 10 December 1851, equipped with the mission to provide Catholic education in the European settlements of Yunnan, Visakhapatnam and Chambery. Barely 6 days after their arrival in India, Bishop Nairet named Mother St. John Boissa as the Superior General of the Sisters of St. Joseph's in his vicariate, in place of Mother St. Clare, who had died recently only after an 8-month stay in India. Mother St. John Boissa, Sister Alphonse and Sister Ursula travelled with 2 MSFS fathers and a group from Visakhapatnam to Chambery, taking the most primitive means of transport available, a bullock cart. Tired and worn out, they arrived in Chambery on 6th April 1854, after a long and perilous journey of 80 days, fraught with dangers and difficulties.
Having declared the Blessed Virgin Mary to be the mother and protectress of the house, she went ahead with confidence, and she began a day school, a boarding and an orphanage.
By 1859, a novitiate was opened, and in December of the same year, Bishop Nairet asked Mother St. Jean to open a second novitiate for Tamil-speaking nuns who were named Daughters of the Immaculate Conception, wearing blue saris and taking temporary vows. They ran a local orphanage and were assigned to the mission of Thana. This congregation, for various reasons, ceased to exist in 1885. The small group of sisters, which was now enlarged by many more missionaries from France, gave their pupils not only a sound literary education, but an all-round preparation for practical daily life. They reached out to families, mothers and children alike, and especially the poor. The grain of mustard seed sown by Mother St. Jean in Chambery began to sprout and spread its branches to the east and west, north and south of India. Through the hard toil, sacrifices and sufferings of the pioneering mothers and sisters from France, it now blooms as a large tree, having its root deep in the indigenous soil of India. Mother St. Jean was posted at Chambery, but was Superior General of both Chambery and Vishakhapatnam. In 1902, a large acreage of land with a bungalow was acquired in Pachmari, which is a hill station. This bungalow, called the Fox Rock Bungalow, was utilized initially as a boarding for children whose parents wanted their children to be educated in healthy surroundings. But 10 or 12 years later, the bungalow was converted into a summer residence for sisters who needed fresh air and rest. But it had the disadvantage of being situated far from the parish church, and the sisters could not have Holy Mass daily. Besides, the actual town was rather far for purchase of food grain, etc. Hence, another piece of property was brought closer to the town and church. In 1926, St. Joseph's residence was constructed by Brother Alexis Wasson, MSFS, to accommodate about 15 sisters, with a chapel attached to it. This was Mother Anastasia's last gift to her ailing and aging sisters. Year after year, a trip was organized in summer from Chambery to Pachmari by bus, carrying the old and sick members with a few young sisters to help them. Since Fox Rock Bungalow was not occupied, the families of the Rajas took it on rent every year for some months. This rental amount was utilized to defray the expense of the summer vacations of the sisters. The Rajas occupied Fox Rock for some years, till after independence they lost the ownership of their estates, and their families could no more enjoy such luxuries, and Fox Rock was closed again. While the tree of love was blossoming in India, the seed of war was already ripe in the other side, and the world was plunged into chaos in 1939. World War II lasted till 1945, and the branch of St.Joseph sent more sisters to Chambery. So it was decided at the General Chapter to cede the missions of Chambery to the Sisters of Joseph of St.Joseph. Thus all the new recruits who entered from 1940 to 1958 were Sisters of St. Joseph of St.Joseph.
In 1906, 10 sisters, Irish and French, from the convents of Nagpur and Jabalpur, detached themselves from Chambery and went to Sagar, which was at that time under the Diocese of Allahabad. They agreed to take over the school and the convent, which was being run by the Loreto nuns, who felt that there was no scope for the development of a school in Sagar, because there were very few students.
In 1934, the sisters who had detached themselves from Chambery were asked by Bishop Doubleman of the Diocese of Jabalpur to take over the orphanage of Shampura, a few miles out of Sagar, when the Franciscan fathers decided to move out. In 1939, Mother Bridget and Mother Stanislaus from this group went to Ireland for vocations from there, but they were unable to return to India due to the Second World War. So they began a convalescent home in a house which they had received as a gift in Wales. Later in 1946, Providence guided them towards one amalgamation with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery, through Mother Francoise, Superior General of Chambery, who was in England at that time. In 1948, Mother Patricia, who was in charge of the region, opened 2 foundations at Quetta and Kohat in Pakistan after the partition of India and Pakistan. By now, Saugar was included in the Diocese of Jabalpur. In 1952, Bishop Doubleman found the need of attempting evangelization in the state of Riva. He approached Mother Francoise of the Sacred Heart, Superior General of the Sisters of St.Joseph of Chambery, who was in India at the time for the visitation of the Saugar region. He asked her if she could provide a matron and nurses for the government hospital in Riva. An appeal was made to the province of Hartford in America, which belonged to the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery, and Mother Frances James, matron, and Sister Anne Mary Kelly, sister tutor, were sent to help in the hospital at Riva. In 1956, the Bishop of Indore invited the Sisters of Saugar to work in the Hindi parish school in Ratlam. Soon, an English school was also started by the Superior, Mother Thekla. Mother Agnes Kuriakos was now in charge of the region of Saugar. Mother Constance, Superior General of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, wrote an official letter to the sisters in Kamti, which was received by all the sisters at the end of their retreat in December 1957, explaining that owing to a recurring scarcity of local vocations, it was proposed to join the more powerful and more numerous congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery. The sisters in India were therefore asked to give their opinion on the proposal. In the same way as their companions in Europe, the votes in Savoy, Belgium, and in Kamti proved to be in favor of the fusion as proposed. Their general wish for an amalgamation was favorably received by the congregation, appealed to, and it was further decided in Rome by the General House of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery that the Sisters of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne and of Kamti would henceforth form independent provinces, separately attached to Chambery. The congregation of the Sisters of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne thus ceased to exist as a religious institute and became part of another congregation of 5,000 members under the Superior General of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery. Mother Ludovic and Mother Agnes Kuriakos was still in charge not of their provinces but of their regions, and they attended the general chapter in Rome like other provinces. Mother Mary de Pazzi, as delegate to Mother General, came to India. She announced that the Sisters of Kamti and Saugar would with immediate effect form one province, with Kamti as the provincial house and Saugar as the place of the united novitiates. During the retreat of 1958-59, Mother Frances James was the local superior of the community of Gandhi Memorial Hospital in Riva, was voted as provincial of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Chambery after the amalgamation of Kamti and Saugar. The missionaries of St. Francis de Sales and the Sisters of St. Joseph of Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne had toiled side by side in the Lord's vineyard for 100 years, running from 1854 to 1954, and the MSFS fathers moved to Amravati around this time. Meanwhile, at Pachmani, in the year 1960, the Madhya Pradesh government, on noticing that the property was not being utilized, wanted to requisition it for the purpose of establishing a horticulture institute. Just about this time, the historic amalgamation of the two branches of the Sisters of St. Joseph took place, Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne in Comte and Chambery in Sauger. This led the provincial team at Comte, headed by Mother Frances James, to decide not to give up this property, but rather utilize it to establish the new provincial house and the novitiate in a common place at Pachmari, because having the provinciate in Comte and the novitiate in Sauger entailed too much of travel back and forth. This decision was sanctioned by Mother Françoise, Superior General of the Sisters of Chambery in Rome. Pachmari till now was under the jurisdiction of the Archdiocese of Nagpur, but as soon as the Archdiocese of Bhopal was erected with Right Reverend Eugene D'Souza as Archbishop, it was included in the latter. In God's design, this idle piece of property was converted to serve as an opening for new province. Undoubtedly, God has been guiding the events of history at the right time and blessing it with the right persons. God blessed the new province with Sister Frances James as provincial. She was a stalwart with a heart of gold and the qualities necessary to make the congregation move ahead in its crucial time of fusion. God blessed her with faith and courage to take risks, to safeguard unity and communion, and the foresight to serve the needs of future generations.
In January 1961, Sisters Anne Genevieve, Bernadette and Canisius were sent to Pachmari
to have Foxrock Bungalow repaired and renovated, to serve the needs of the new provincialate. Foxrock Bungalow with the adjoining cottage were to be used as the temporary residence and headquarters. By June 1961, Mother Frances James Provincial, Mother Ludovic Assistant, Mother Mechtilde Counselor, and Sister Veronica Fernandez, Secretary and Bursar, travelled by car from Comte to Pachmari to join the group of 3. This was the first community at Foxrock. Later, it was decided to use St. Joseph's to begin a Montessori school. So Sister Mary Joseph, Sister Christopher Whelan, Sister Veronica Alapat were added to the little community. After some time, Sister Mary Agnes McNamara and Sister Celine arrived, thus bringing the number to 12. Mother Frances James set about commencing the project of having a building on a large flat ground at the foot of the rock. This new building was to be so designed and constructed to house the provincial administration, the novitiate and a future juniorate. Also for the accommodation of sisters during meetings, retreats, seminars, etc. God blessed this project by providing good and honest persons, Mr. Nepani, architect, Mr. Hussain, contractor from Bhopal, Brother Hans Kiras, SVD, a German engineer from the Diocese of Indore. The building took 4 years, 1964 to 1968, to be completed because everything, that is sand, bricks, cement, iron, wood, etc., had to be transported from Itarsi, Piparia, Hoshangabad, Bhopal, Indore, Mumbai by truck or by rail. The labor was also from Bhopal. In the meantime, the novices of the combined provinces were transferred from Comte to Sauger, and from Sauger to Pachmari, about 40 in all. They were housed in Kaslaw, a bungalow in the parish church compound, while waiting for the work on the novitiate to be completed.
The whole building, furniture and all, was going to cost about 14 lakhs. 14 lakhs was nothing today, but for us at that time it was a large amount. We had no money, and so Mother Frances James borrowed 20,000 from the Archbishop of Bhopal. One evening, when I went to her room, I found her crying, and I was surprised. So I asked her what was wrong, and she said, I have received a message that I have to pay back 20,000 immediately. I felt I had to be a support for Mother Frances James at this time. And so I said, why do you worry? If you give me leave, I will go to Nagpur and we'll borrow from our bank in Nagpur. That was the central bank in Nagpur. We borrowed 20,000 to return to the Archbishop of Bhopal. But we tried our best that we would not let the interest accumulate. So we tried to pay back month after month before the end of the year. This is just a little incident to show that it was not easy to build in Pachmari.
Quite a number of sisters died and were buried in Pachmari. Mother Ludovic, Sister Mary Agnes McNamara, Mother Frances James, Mother Xavier, Mother Laetitia, and several more sisters. By June 1991, as a result of the bifurcation of the province, two provinces were created, the provinces of Pachmari and the province of Nagpur. At this stage, it's good to recall that the newly begun Nagpur province had its small beginnings way back in December 1874, when Mother Alphonse, one of the three pioneers of the Sisters of St.Joseph County, opened a girls' school in Nagpur. St. Francis de Sales School had already been functioning for 4 years. Boys were provided for, but not the girls, and people wanted education also for the girls. There was no building to accommodate the nuns and the school, so they found a shelter in the shadow of the priest's school. It was only by 1888 that the sisters were able to transfer the convent and the school directly to the present place, which was formerly known as Khalasi Line and is now in the locality of Mohannagar. In this century, practically all congregations were diocesan congregation. Thus, in 1884, Monsignor Tissot appointed the Sisters of St. Joseph to begin a Marathi school in Nagpur in an old palace of the Bhosla Rajas, close to the present corporation office. This institution was called St. Philomena's School and was mainly for Hindu caste girls. There was a dispensary attached to it. In 1889, the Catechist Sisters, SMMI, arrived in India and were lodged in St. Philomena's School. They stayed with the Sisters of St. Joseph for 5 months on the first floor of the Raja's palace. By the 16th February 1892, Bishop Rikas, the new prelate, ordered the Catechist Sisters to take over St. Philomena's School with free scope among the Hindi and Marathi people as their mission. To the Sisters of St. Joseph, he entrusted the education of European and English-speaking children. The school had begun in an ordinary bungalow, but with the patience and perseverance of each successive superior and principal, but particularly with God's gracious blessing and care, it has developed to its present situation. During the course of time, it embraced all children of various castes, creeds, and denominations. Today, it has further grown to 4 provinces: the province of Pachmari in Pachmari, Tanmay province in Bhopal, Nagpur province and Nirmala province in Panvel, with about 120 sisters in each.
In conclusion, we may say, our founder, Father John Peter Mehta's little design, as he called the congregation, was meant to live love and communion, and to spread this love and communion among all.
The history of the Sisters of St. Joseph in India is a beautiful saga based on the significant principles: autonomy, mission and union, the characteristic of the congregation. In this present where past and future converge,
we ponder how, in loving solidarity with the needs and hopes of human peoples, through what we can do as women in any given time and place, we can reach the goal spelt out by our founder, the double total union of ourselves and the dear neighbor with God, of ourselves and all others, whoever they may be, of ourselves and all others among themselves and with us, but wholly in Jesus and in God, his Father.
imbued with this charism of communion, the members of the Institute go forward together with hope, joy, and heroism to live and witness the oneness and unity desired by our founder, Father John Peter Medai. As our sisters place their confidence in Father Medai and our first sisters, they continue to minister from day to day, year by year, century to century, carrying the light of faith, hope, and love further into the third millennium. May the ever-creative Spirit of our God liberate each one to be driven by a holy restlessness to make Jesus and his mission the whole purpose of our very existence as sisters of St. Joseph.